Welcome to the Unblock Your Business podcast. I'm Abby Rogers, success coach, business coach, and hypnotherapist, and I help high achievers and business leaders to take control of their minds to achieve incredible success, smash those income goals, and above all, create a life of abundance, well-being, and happiness. Join me as we slay imposter syndrome, level up your mindset, and get you feeling like you can achieve anything you want in your life or business. Because, you really can when you get your mind in the right place. Let's dive in and look at how you can show up bigger, better, and more uniquely aligned in life and business today. Hey, thank you for joining me today. It's episode 57, and it is, of course, the Unblock Your Business podcast. Now, I know a lot of people who, as entrepreneurs, really struggle to overcome their perfectionism to the extent where it can really hold them back from achieving great things in their businesses. And perfectionism really is a double-edged sword because it comes from this place of wanting to do your best, offer the world your best work, and not let other people down, which is a wonderful thing. But that can often spill over into something that really causes us to sabotage ourselves, maybe stop us ever getting our work out there at all, and keeps us stuck in a place where we're just playing so much smaller than we might do otherwise. So today we're going to look into why that happens and when it becomes a problem, and a few ways that I like to reframe things to help. But I thought before we do that, I would just talk briefly about OCD. If you like, the heavy end of the scale of perfectionism, because I work a lot with people with OCD. And by OCD, I mean real life-changing OCD, which is quite different from just being a bit particular. And it can have a huge, absolutely crippling impact on people's lives and on what they can achieve. And it's often treated as a kind of a bit of a throwaway thing or a bit of a joke. I'm a bit OCD, haha. But it genuinely can be this enormously debilitating and destructive condition. So I just wanted to say, if that's you and you're struggling with that at the moment, I'd like you to know that I understand that, and that if I can help in any way, then please reach out. I know it's not a nice place to be. And if I could just get on my little soapbox for a moment or two here and just let everybody else in the world know that OCD is far from amusing if it's something that affects your life or the life of somebody you love. I would just love that to be a message that starts to permeate into the wider world, because we are, as a society, we're getting so much better and so much more conscious of being inclusive and mindful and respectful of people and their various struggles these days. But for some reason, OCD just seems to slip under that radar and not get given the airtime and the respect it deserves. So I'd just love to say, please be mindful of that. And if you do suffer with OCD, I'd love to encourage you to set that record straight if you can in your world. And if you feel that it's something you're called to do or something that you feel you can do, then maybe to share those experiences of yours, like other people have in more recent years with other mental well-being issues, because I think it's something that really we should talk about and give the airtime to, in order to help people really understand and help it get better known and further its cause, basically, and help you guys get more help with it. Now, saying that, I do think the lines are a bit blurred between perfectionism and OCD, because both come down to our fear and control system going into overdrive. So I would describe perfectionism as the tendency to want to do everything right, whereas OCD is an absolute compulsion, and it literally feels like something awful is going to happen if you don't carry out the behaviour. And sometimes it can take the form of things like intrusive thoughts that just won't go away, which can be just as nightmarish. Really not pleasant, and both both things are based in anxiety and are, if you like, on the same spectrum, a bit like I was talking about autism being on the spectrum, and you very often hearing about, well, everybody's on the spectrum. It's similar with OCD. I think, you know, OCD is the more extreme clinical end of the spectrum, and so much so that it really deserves merit as its own condition. But anxiety is the kind of underlying basis for all of the above. And so, as I said earlier, it's all rooted in anxiety and fear, and that might surprise you because we think of perfectionism as striving to be excellent and making sure that we're doing the best job we can and showing up as our best selves. And that doesn't kind of go with fear in our minds, does it? And I think if we're talking about having high standards, then yes, that's a really good description, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with doing a good job. Obviously, we do want to do the best for our clients and show up as our very best selves. But when that starts to impact on your ability to move forward and make progress, then it's really tipping over into something very negative and detrimental instead. Now, when we're totally 100% in our element, in our very best mental condition, totally free from anxiety and stress and fear, we don't let anything hold us back. We recognise what's good enough, and we're a lot more comfortable with the idea of having a go and not caring if we get things a bit off. When we're being overly perfectionist, on the other hand, it's because we care too much about what other people think, and often we're afraid of what might happen if we did take a step forward, and often actually it's a bit of both of those things. And that's basically our brain's way of opting out of something that feels frightening and threatening to us subconsciously. Even if it is something that we're really excited about, we can still be excited and have this subconscious narrative of fear going on in the background and sabotaging the whole thing. So our brain starts operating from this place of fear, and when it does that, it starts coming up with these bullshit excuses to keep us stuck. So we start to see things from this place of there's not enough and I'm not good enough. And you might hear your mind telling you things like, I need to learn more, I'm not ready to do this yet, I need to keep tweaking things, I need to make things better, I'm just waiting for the right time. Now isn't the right time to raise my prices because of the economy, there's too much competition and they're all way better than me. People will just think, who the hell does she think she is? You know, our brain's doing these negative thought loops and throwing things at us to stop us taking action. The good thing is that none of those are true. They are just the reality that we're creating for ourselves because our mind takes us down these rabbit holes rather than the alternative of giving it a go and doing the thing, which to our brain is absolutely terrifying. So perfectionism, if you like, is kind of psychological self-defense in action. It's your brain putting the brakes on and saying, I don't feel comfortable doing that. But the thing that we never really consider when we're being ruled by that fear center, when that's really taken control, is it really safe to stay where we are right now? It's a question we don't often ask ourselves because our brain subconsciously assumes that the things we've always done and the status quo is the safest and the best option. And that's because it's familiar and we love the familiar. We find it really hard to quit even things that are bad for us because we love familiar so much. So things like smoking, it's often thought of as a chemical addiction. Actually, it's only about 10% chemical. It's 90% psychological. And that's because that familiarity and that perceived relief of stress and comfort that we get from it is so powerful. So if you're a bit of a perfectionist and you're struggling to move forward, I'd love you to just ask yourself, if you stay where you are right now, if you allow your perfectionism to hold you back, are you in actual fact risking a whole lot more by doing that? And I think for a lot of people, the answer is going to be yes, if you think about it hard enough. Now, just on a very general level, just taking that risk analysis a bit further, the businesses that survive and thrive are the ones that evolve with whatever the changing situation is, whether it's global pandemic, whether it's economic crisis, whether it's the internet coming in and stealing market share. Whereas the ones that stay stuck and don't take action and bury their heads in the sand are really the ones that are most at risk. So you can start to see how staying stuck often isn't the safest bet, and just turning that into another area of life, just looking at it in terms of finances and future wealth. So, for example, by learning about investments and doing something new towards building your financial future, rather than keeping your money in the safety, inverted commas, safety of savings, which are not really safe at all because they're probably losing you money given the rate of inflation versus the interest you're receiving. The chances are that you'll be a lot better off in the long run if you push beyond that comfort zone and try the new thing and try the investing and learn about that properly. I have to be honest and say it took me until probably a year or two ago to really realise that and start taking action on that one, rather than just watching my savings dwindling away. Because it feels safe and easy, doesn't it? So you wouldn't think that that kind of thing was necessarily the same as perfectionism and not moving forward because of perfectionism, but there are a lot of similar ingredients. It's all part of that self-defense mechanism, keeping us stuck and safe. With perfectionism, we just add a bit too much worry about other people and what they might think into the mix as well. So what you'll notice is when you think of taking risks and doing the thing that feels a bit scary or not getting it perfect, your brain goes a bit crazy and starts to imagine all the dreadful things happening. So if that's something that you've noticed for yourself, I'd love you to just ask, how likely are those things to happen really, if you think about it? Is it just a horror story from your brain, or is it really quite likely? And if those things did happen, what would happen? You would more than likely figure it out. You would find a way forward. And as we were saying earlier, it's usually a much bigger risk to do nothing. Now, I don't know about you, but I think for me, the biggest risk of all in life is to waste your life and not do the things that you'd love to have done because you've kept yourself stuck. For me, that is massive. And if I'm ever feeling those perfectionist tendencies and wanting to hold back on something, or just not feeling like trying the new thing, I think of that, and that really helps me push through and go, come on, you never want to get to the end of your life and just be sitting there wishing that you had done this. So that's quite powerful for me, and I would love you to take on that thought and give that a try for yourself. I would imagine that you've probably had similar thoughts yourself, because you don't get to where you are now and doing what you're doing now without being pretty clear on wanting to live your best life. That's the reason most of us get into this, isn't it? So please don't let perfectionism stop you being all you could be just because it feels a bit scary to give things a go. I'd love to bet that you've already made some pretty major leaps and come through them all the better for it, or most certainly lived and learned, even if they haven't gone to plan. And it feels so good, doesn't it? Once you've made that decision, yes, it's so good to just stop wondering and do it, isn't it? Now, we often use this expression, winging it, as well, in a bit of a negative way. So I just want to touch on this because I think this will be really helpful to you as well. So we'll say I feel like I'm winging it compared to everybody else. Firstly, please know that everybody is winging it, and we all come up against things that feel scary. It's just that some of us know how to minimize that and to tune into our logical decision-making brain, which is the bit that does help us to move forward, so that we can move forward easily and we don't self-sabotage and sit there in self-doubt and lack of confidence. So that's what I do myself. I minimize that, and I teach and help kind of rewire my clients to do that for themselves as well using hypnotherapy. But secondly, I'd love you to look on winging it as a wonderful thing. Baby birds don't know that they can fly before they take their very first flight. They just trust that they can do it. They leap and they let their wings carry them. And I want you to know as well that by leaping, that you can trust your brain to find your wings. You can trust your brain to work things out for you. If things do start to go wrong, then your brain will figure it out for you. It will problem solve if you allow it to. We have this wonderful, huge intellectual capacity to overcome problems, even massive problems. And we just so often stop ourselves being able to tap into that because we're so paralyzed with fear and not moving forward. And we're just too busy listening to that voice of fear. Now, the other amazing thing is that by letting go of perfectionism and trying less hard, you'll find that you actually produce better work and you produce it faster as well. Because we only ever learn by allowing ourselves to get things wrong. So if we're not doing the things, we're not learning. Perfectionism is kind of like keeping your bike stabilizers on forever. It keeps you going, it keeps you perfectly upright, but it doesn't ever let you really learn to ride. So failure, one of my favorite things is to look at failure as this big stepping stone to greater success. It's not final. It's the first step in learning how to move forward. So you'll find that every single pro, every super successful business person has been a beginner and they've made a ton of mistakes at some point. And that is why they are so good. And they still make mistakes and they're not afraid to make mistakes. And that's what makes them so successful. They just deal with it and move on. But they do make mistakes because they're human, just like you. So I'd love you to get used to embracing that feeling of uncertainty. Be that baby bird that is about to take that leap and tap into the excitement and just think how amazing your flight is going to be once you do take off. Don't just stand there on the branch teetering there wondering whether your feathers are quite the right colour for flying or quite the right length or whatever. Just trust yourself and commit to it and just go, and you will never regret it. So talking of committing, I would love you to make a commitment to yourself today. And how we make sure that we commit to something is by setting an intention and then tying something of value to it. So maybe for you that could be investing some money. So for example, since I've invested in business coaching and mindset support, I've been sure as hell doing the work that I've had to do because I've been invested in it. Maybe that commitment for you could be committing some time. Time is important to us too. So getting something in your diary and making it non-negotiable. Maybe it's putting it out there in front of other people, because saying that you're going to do something is a surefire way to make sure that you show up. We're just as afraid of losing face as we are of losing money and time. Maybe it's committing to launching a course by a certain date, no matter how ready or not you feel, and making yourself accountable. Now, it's up to you how big you want to go, but I would love to hear whether you are going to take action and what that action is going to be. So if this has resonated and inspired you today, please drop me an email. The email address is in the show notes at www.unblockyourbusiness.com/podcast. And just click on today's episode and you can find my email address there. And if you are feeling like you still couldn't possibly move forward, or you just feel like it would cause you real massive discomfort and terror, or you just can't see it happening for you to be able to move forward and do that thing you really want to do, then I would love to chat with you about that and just see whether it's something we might be able to get you past in one of my half-day business breakthrough sessions. So these are my most popular sessions, and they have this little habit of creating massive impact and incredible shifts. Plus, you also, as a one-to-one client of mine, will get access to my VIP mentoring and networking group for clients, the Limitless Life Lounge, which is going to be accessible for you absolutely free once we've worked together. So if you feel like that half-day session might just be exactly what you need right now, you can book again check out the show notes on my website and you can find the link to book there. So it's www.unblockyourbusiness.com/podcast and just have a look for this episode. Is perfectionism holding you back? Thank you so much for listening today. I do hope that was helpful and insightful. Have yourself a wonderful week and take care. See you soon. Thanks for listening. I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have, it would be incredible if you could pop a review on iTunes, Google, or your favourite podcast platform. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible mindset and strategic updates every single week. And I would love you to head over to www.unblockyourbusiness.com, where you can pick up free resources for imposter syndrome, money mindset, and so much more, and join my incredible email community, the A-List. See you there.